Then there'll be some more stuff after that. Awards will be given out. And then I'll have a few words to say about some things. We have with us a senior vice president at Blue Origin and the president of the Club for the Future, which, by the way, generously gave the Mars Society $1 million about a year ago. So they're funding us to create the future. We're going to do it. But let's hear what Mike Edmonds has to say.
Yeah, sure. Pin that to your. Set this here.
Great, I'll just put it in my pocket.
Oh yeah, sure.
Can you guys hear me okay? Is that working?
And then this, you can advance with the clicker there.
Okay, well, let me start with this. So there's two reasons I'm here. First, let me get a picture of these guys. So I live about 10 minutes from here, and I came by myself. No one would come with me. These guys come from Mongolia, and there's like 100 of them in here. So ASU, both of my kids, both of my nephews, my wife, a lot of Sun Devils in our house. So thank you to ASU for hosting, and thank you to anybody who's supporting ASU or going to ASU right now. Mars Society. So I wasn't going to mention the donation, but since he mentioned it, I will say this. I called up, and I think it'll help set the context, because you may say, what's Blue Origin up to? Are we going to Mars? Let me just say it takes a village. And so when we did an auction for the first seat on New Shepard, and I'll talk a bit more about that, but for the first human paying customer to go on New Shepard to go above the Kármán line, we did an auction for that, and it went for $28 million, the first seat. So $28 million. And so I was on the conversation with Jeff. What do you want to do here? We had already said we were going to put all 28 million to the Club for the Future. And the discussion was, let's spread the money around, at least some of it. We'll keep some for Club, but we'll spread it around. And we had a very long conversation about who to include. And I got to make the recommendation with input from my team. And it was a one-to-one conversation going back and forth. And we got to Mars Society. And I said, well, a little bit off our current roadmap. And he said, yeah, but we want everybody to come along, and it's going to take different ideas. Maybe the ideas are better in some ways, right? There was other conversations about people who had kind of tagged us publicly, and he's like, that's okay. Maybe if we work with them, they won't tag us publicly. So the reality is, everybody needs to really get, we're a small enough community, we're a small enough industry, and it's important enough that we have to work together. I dare anyone in the room to name the Star Trek episode where it didn't look like a whole bunch of different people with different ideas in the Star Trek. Like, if it's going to work, that's how it's going to work. So as I go through what we're doing and you're trying to figure out what the hell it has to do with Mars, a lot of it doesn't. But as far as the roadmap goes to where we want to end up, be it the moon, or be it an O'Neill settlement, or be it Mars, the roadmap right now is so similar. We got to get out of the gravity well. We got to find a way to make this super cheap to do any of it. So we're all on the same team for the end state regardless. And for now, we all really need to work together. So kind of keep that in the back of it. And this is where I tell you I'm not an engineer, because I've already broken the PowerPoint. Help. Technical support. Anybody see Vanilla Sky?
The human need to explore is deep within all of us. Our ancestors crossed mountain ranges, sailed open oceans to map new lands, and sought out the unknown while always looking to the stars. We're curious, and now we're at a place where we can pioneer new horizons. Because Earth, this blue planet, and all its beauty is just our starting place.
It's time to go again.
4. Amanda, start. 2, 1.
5,000 feet and climbing.
This is incredible.
Now is the time to open the promise of space to all and lay the way for generations to come. When our descendants look to the stars, perhaps from a rocky moon or colonies floating in open space,
Or Mars.
they'll remember this time. When they reflect on where it started, they'll remember this place. And when they honor those first explorers who said, "Let's go," they'll remember these bold steps. We are of Blue Origin. And this is just the beginning.
Okay, a few questions. So I was reminded to stay behind the camera, and I really like to walk and talk. So just somebody yell at me whenever I do it again. So first, that video was a bunch of cartoons when it started. Now all the video in there is real. So it's step by step, it takes some time. Secondly, the voice on there, pretty obvious. You guys know who the voice was? That was Jeff Bezos. Anybody know the music? That was Bono, actually, for the record, and he owes us a new song. Okay, so Blue Origin. What does Blue Origin stand for? Earth. It's Earth. It's the pale blue dot. That's why Blue Origin. For those who think, and actually, there's a Bitcoin entity that I got to go speak to, and they were signing our non-disclosure agreement, and it said basically you can't disparage Blue Origin. And I said, and they asked, well, we're a little worried we can't sign that. We might disparage Blue Origin. And I said, how? Why? What would you say? And they said, well, we're for free space, to democratize space, to open up space for everyone. And I said, hey, that's what we're for. And they didn't believe it. They think, no, Jeff, he's trying to monetize space. He's trying to pull that forward. That's not at all the vision of Blue Origin. As a matter of fact, Jeff has said publicly multiple times, he'll likely not see a profit in Blue Origin in his lifetime. And I highly doubt it. I get to see the numbers closely. This is philanthropic. Our vision is millions of people living and working in space for the benefit of Earth. That's why Blue Origin exists. Our goal is to preserve the planet for future generations, full stop. We don't want to leave it. We want to protect it. And so the mission then is radically reducing the cost of access to space. That's step one. And I'll talk about how each of our projects work toward this. But if we can make it cheap enough to get out of the gravity well, that's step one. And this all stems back from Jeff in high school. He's thinking about the population explosion. And to put it into current terms for me, I'm 48 years old. There are almost 8 billion people on the planet. When I was born, there were 4 billion. My relatively 48 insignificant years, we have almost doubled. At some point, you either have to throttle the number of humans or you have to throttle the quality of life. Now, I'm glad they don't have a microphone over here because we got into a fun debate about this, but I have the mic, so I get to speak and you have to listen. Basically, doubling, right? And so earlier today, it's karma, kismet, something, but I got to see the opening of Goodnight Oppie, which is a story about the Opportunity rover at the Arizona Science Center. Like, how freaking awesome is that we're opening up and driving to that? But in any case, Jeff back in high school is thinking, okay, expansion. He's watching Star Trek. He's literally reading every book that's ever been written and thinking about, okay, we don't have to beat up the planet. Everything we could possibly need is in our solar system. Any mineral you could need, infinite energy. And yeah, there's water. It's just hard to get. So we better get started. It's kind of that simple. So in his mind, Blue Origin is born that long ago. I, for one, am very thankful that he kept on to that passion his entire life. And when had some coin to go invest in it, decided to continue to do that. I feel the same way about Elon, different mission. Anybody else who's investing, including the US government and all of the companies that we stand on their shoulders, including NASA, like, thank you that we've got that. But the goal is one, if we can radically reduce the cost of access to space, then we can too utilize in-space resources for the benefit of Earth, full stop. And every one of our 9,000 employees knows number 3, and that's inspiring the next generation. If everyone in this room does it and does it right, we'll still be decades away from what we're after. We've got to bring it forward with the next generation. We've got to do it in partnership across entities, countries, governments. It's got to be all of us, and it's got to be all of us together. That's what we're after. Okay, so how do we do that? So the 3 legs of the mission: radically reduce the cost of access to space, utilize in-space resources for the benefit of Earth, and inspire the next generation. Top left, New Shepard, and the video is basically about New Shepard. 23 launches now, and I'll go more into that but New Shepard basically exists to do 2 things. One, start to begin to reduce the cost of access to space. You get a lot of press out there that says millionaires in space, and I'll go through who's actually flown and show you that. And yeah, it's pricey. It's not the 20 million that Tito paid. It's still low M dollars. And then we go out of our way to make sure that we diversify. We go out of our way to make sure that we bring along with other organizations to fly folks who wouldn't have been able to. But everyone in this room will be able to afford to go to space in their lifetime. 100% happen. Absolutely. Now this is above it. Thank you. Thank you. So New Shepard is a pathfinder. to inspire the next generation, as well as to really get us to understand how to operationalize, develop, design, and all of those practices feed over into New Glenn. New Glenn, taller than the Statue of Liberty, almost as big as a Saturn V. The fairing is 7 meters. It's the biggest fairing by volume ever. The fairing is half as long as a 737 and twice as wide. We're talking some muscle. The New Glenn is driven by main stage 7 BE4 engines, 550,000 pounds of thrust. This sucker's got some muscle. Those same engines, by the way, we sell to ULA for their Vulcan rocket. 2 of them power that. Now they're expendable, we reuse, but that's okay. But that's a pretty good example of 2 companies that compete in some areas, partnering in others. Everyone in this industry wants success of everyone else if they're playing, right? New Glenn, second stage, powered by the BE3U. That's the same engine that's on the New Shepard. The BE3PM is optimized for the vacuum of space, and we get reused there. And those engines are built by the top right, engines business within Blue Origin, which again, we make engines for ourselves, for the New Glenn, for New Shepard, for ULA's Vulcan. And then we also make them for anything that we're going to do in space. And that advanced development programs, everything else that Blue Origin is working on is there. And if you kind of start close to home, that is Orbital Reef. Orbital Reef is a space station. There's a picture of it there. It starts with the business model first. The business model is basically, if you think of a business park or a mall, our intent is we're going to provide core modules that will have the power, will have the water, Eclipse, whatever you need, and other folks can either put on pole modules, so they could actually buy the condo effectively, or they could lease it, bring their own tech to it. So we get the economies of scale around the world. A great deal of interest. There are other companies doing similar. Our model is really around these core modules. You can just scale and get going. And there's a lot of excitement and interest in this as we go forward. Max Fagan in the front, raise your hand if you wouldn't mind, works at Blue Origin. He's actually working on Orbital Reef. So if you have any really good technical questions, ask him, because I won't be able to answer them, quite frankly. But that's one piece of what Advanced Development Programs is doing. The second piece is all about the moon. We absolutely will go back to the moon. We believe that the sequencing, the moon is next. As it happens, thankfully, our nation is very interested in going back, and there's a lot of going on with other nations, which is something I think kind of helping to drive it. But if we can go back to the moon, if we can establish permanence there like we have in LEO on the International Space Station, we can begin to prove things out, not only from the scientific standpoint of kind of, understanding our origins, which I think is pretty important, just like those of you who want to go to Mars, for the understanding that we can get about our own planet, where we may or may not be headed. The same thing happens on the moon. But aside from that, if we can refine, if we can find ways to mine, utilize in-space resources on the moon, that's when you start talking about building things in space. That's when you start talking about big O'Neill settlements. That's when you start talking about putting pollution generating factories that humanity needs to grow and thrive in space, in the vacuum of space, where they hurt absolutely no one. And then we get to thrive unthrottled. Billions of people we get to go throughout the solar system. I have always said that every problem on Earth comes back to finite resources. We as humans fight over finite resources. I have always believed that if we can open up the solar system, we won't fight anymore. And then I saw the expanse. So I might not be right about that, but I have a more optimistic view of the future. Okay, so this is from the first launch. That's Oliver, who didn't win the auction, but the auction winner had scheduling trouble, so he got to fly. Fun story, 3 days before the launch, we needed him in Texas. We were still working for the visa. We actually got in contact with the Prime Minister to help him get into the United States so we could fly him. Probably more importantly, Wally Funk, third one over. Wally Funk is the last living member of the Mercury 13. And I will tell you, the selection was as much as I saw a documentary on a flight about them. When we were going through this, who would you fly? Went and looked. Last one surviving. There's actually a picture of her 2 days before we called her, of her actually pulling an airplane out because she was still teaching people how to fly. Tens of thousands. I mean, it's unbelievable what this woman has done in her life. She actually beat out a lot of the men in the Mercury program in terms of the test, but didn't get to fly. So 6 years later, we got to put her in space. And for a while, she was the oldest human to be in space. Anybody know who holds the record now? William Shatner, right? So oldest woman, oldest man on New Shepard. And then that's Jeff and his brother, who flew as well. Okay, so just a few people that have flown. I'll only highlight Sarah on the bottom left. So we worked with a couple other entities and even called up some of our alum astronauts and said, would you want to invest in flying someone? Space for Humanity worked with us. We got people to donate to Space for Humanity, and we flew Sarah. She's the first Egyptian woman to go into space. There's so many firsts that we do here, and you think, okay, it's an 11-minute flight, it's 3 minutes in space. But there have been 626 as of our last flight. 626 humans have been above the Kármán line. There have been 107 billion humans born. Like, holy hell. 31 of them were on New Shepard in the last year. That's 5% of all humans that have been to space have been on New Shepard in a year. Let's talk about women. 9% of all women that have been in space were on New Shepard in the last year. So we're doubling the rate, and it's still tragic. That's 7 women. We need to do better. Club for the Future. So that third leg of the mission, every one of our employees knows, inspire the next generation. I give you Club for the Future. May of 2019, Jeff announced it when we unveiled the lunar lander. It's a picture of him with the original class. So our goal is basically to engage and inspire the next generation. I heard it the best said that we're not handing over the Earth to future generations, we're borrowing it from them. We really need to do better here. And so our goal is to make sure that kids are thinking about the future. And it doesn't even have to be STEM. I'm a big believer in STEAM. I think art is what makes it all sticky. And so we have a few programs. The base one, postcards. Anybody on the planet can send us as many postcards as they want. We will fly them in space and we'll send them back. And so I don't know about you, but I've got some cynical kids in my life. If I were to walk into a room of a couple kids being somewhat cynical and say, would you like to meet an astronaut? They're suddenly children again. Quite frankly, most 40 or 50 years I know who are cynical, if I say, would you like to meet an astronaut? They're children again. People really care and they enjoy this. And not only that, but we're at the point now where we're flying teachers, we're flying lawyers. In fact, one of the best videos I saw, we flew Audrey Powers, one of the Blue Origin employees, has had a significant impact on the regulatory side as a lawyer and then moved into operations and is the deputy of New Shepard at this point in time. We flew her. One of her lawyer friends sent us a video clip and it just said, Audrey, I'm so glad, thrilled that they're sending lawyers to space. And even more so that they're letting them come back. So many careers, anything that you possibly are thinking about doing, you can do it in space, and that's what we need to build up. And so the subject matter experts, that's actually Audrey there. She used to sit in the seats there at Kennedy, and then she's now in the front speaking to them as an astronaut. And then on the curriculum side, we all need to find better ways to support teachers. We all need to find better ways to support teachers. If you can give teachers the tools to connect with students, game on. Okay, so just Club for the Future, just a couple points. We've only been at this a couple years, and this was during a pandemic, and 3.6 million already is the level of engagement. And probably more importantly, we started, that slide fell out, so I'll hit it here. Just this year, 1.5 million engagement numbers. And we're very careful. It's not just, hey, these people looked at our website, we exclude all that. This is direct engagement that we know that went to a teacher or a student. Of that 1.5 million, there's around 700,000 students engaged. And of that 700,000, the leading demographic, it's about 230,000 African Americans. The second leading is around 200,000 Hispanic, and then white follows from there. And so not only are we going after the next generation, but we're making sure that we're hitting underserved communities wherever we can. And so I'm not bragging here, I'm calling to action. Like, everybody get in that game. There's us after a launch. In the center there, you've got Audrey and the rest of her flight crew. Shatner had already left, or he'd be in there as well. He was tired. By the way, I encourage you all to go look for the picture of Shatner. You saw him in the video when he kind of looks back. There's a phenomenal video, a picture of him doing that. And they've got the Enterprise in one window, and they got the Millennium Falcon in the other one. And go find it, is excellent. I should have put it in the presentation. Thank you. Everything that we do is for the benefit of Earth. So if you remember two things, for the benefit of Earth, number one, and number two, pay it forward. Let's work on the next generation. Do I have time for questions? Or okay, great. So I will take questions until I can't answer them, and then I'll say goodnight.
When's New Glenn going to launch?
When is New Glenn going to launch? We're still pushing for 2023. We will fly when we're ready. We are absolutely about safety first. For those of you who watched NS-23, our last launch on New Shepard, safety first, we'll fly when we're ready, and we will meet our customer schedules, and it's got a pretty full manifest for the first 3 years. Thank you for asking. I can't see anything, so if there's any other hands up.
Any questions?
One thing I do want to clarify from the space community is a lot of the frustration and heat you take from space advocates is not that people want Blue Origin to fail. It's that people really want Blue Origin to succeed, and we want you to succeed a little faster. So just understand, you hear a lot of flack. We're really encouraging you, and the more you succeed, the more we're going to glory with you on that.
I appreciate that, as do 9,000 strong.
Hi there, I'm from Albuquerque, where Jeff is from. And
I heard we see what a lot of SpaceX is. You just yell at me and I'll repeat it.
okay. SpaceX is very good at popularizing what they're doing. Blue Origin has been notoriously secretive about what they are doing. And it's wonderful to see you coming out and saying what it is that you're doing. Can we have more of that? Can we have the level of insight into what Blue Origin is doing that SpaceX has been giving us? Because we love you and we love what you're doing and we want you to succeed. Just let us know what it is you're doing.
Okay, so that's fair. So for the first 15 years, there was a PR company paid to say no comment. It predates me. I've been at Blue for 4 years. And then so more and more we are talking about what we're doing in terms of the vision and the mission. I will say that it comes from an attempt at humility. We only want to talk about things that we have done. We are not so interested in talking about things that we've yet to accomplish or beating our chest in any way, even when we've done them. So I can tell you that, yeah, we've been a lot more quiet, but it really comes from an attempt at humility and modesty, not secrecy. But I take the feedback. I happen to own communications for the company. So after I stop crying on the way home, I will think about what to do better about that. I don't see any other hands.
One here.
Yeah, but that looks like a hard question. How about over? I'm just kidding.
Oh, this is a fun question. So I just want to say thanks for inspiring the future children. Like as soon as I get back to Canada, my kids are going to be on that program.
Thank you.
And the second question, the most important question, how many seats are in the raffle this evening?
I'm highly confident the answer to that is 0. But I'll pull them out of a hat if you'd like me to. How long do I have? How long do I have? You guys pull me, I'll go until you pull me off.
Hi, thank you for the presentation. So I'm gonna say it. I'm a pilot. Okay, so
What do you fly?
I fly King Air 200.
Right.
So as a woman in aviation, I think it just finally rounded up to 7% of pilots are female. So we still have a long way to go just to get, at least 50-50 for women and men in just the pilot seat. So what initiatives is Blue Origin doing to target and to get more women into space exploration as astronauts?
Yeah, well, first, are you a 99?
I am, yes.
Good. Okay, so as far as that goes, one, Club for the Future, we're absolutely targeted diversity across the board. And I happen to mention African-American, Hispanic, but the gender side as well. I would challenge anybody representing any other company in the room that when you say from a diversity, gender, or people of color standpoint, oh, the market doesn't have it, we're above the market. Market in Phoenix is 6% of African-American and we have 6%, so we're doing good. I challenge you to reject that. I challenge you to say that half of the United States, more than half, are women. In the world, it's just under half, and that should be your metric, and that's what you should go for. And that's what we're going for at Blue, first of all. Are we there yet? Not even close. So it really comes from, number one, the marketing side of it. If you can sell a product, then you can sell your company, and you can sell it to a segment that you want, in this case, women or people of color. And so we're working that. We've got affinity groups, we call them business resource groups. Ours happens for women happens to be called New Mercury. And that was before we went after Wally to come in, by the way. but it's a group that just drives and pushes for how do we get more people into the industry? How do we get more into Blue Origin? Another thing I'd mention is the Aerospace Corporation made this pledge in Denver at Space Symposium. Something like 30 companies signed up to it. Blue is one of them. That we're taking metrics right now of how we're doing, and we're going to go fix it. And we're going to fix it together. But I think it has to be attacked at multi-prong. It has to be, we got to go create the market, so to speak. And so if you're not fishing in the right area to hire people, you need to do better. You need to have a diverse slate. Every time you have a job, if you interviewed one person or two people, and they both happen to be white males, you should keep interviewing until you interview more, right? And it doesn't mean you hire the best candidate, but just make sure you're interviewing. It's kind of the simplest answer I'd give you on it. But it's got to be early career. We got to actually create the pipeline, and then we've got to drive the pipeline, and then we got to drive it into our industry. So it's a lot of work. It's a lot easier just to take the first one you find, but you got to look. I hope that's helpful. LGBTQ as well. We have a affinity group called New Ride. We have one New Fisher. I'm actually the sponsor that's focused on families. We've got New Jackson focused on African Americans. So our numbers are not where they need to be. So please don't hear that I think that Blue Origin has cracked the code, but those are the things that we're working on to try to make it better.
Hi there, Stelly Ford, Moondow. So you mentioned
Moondow, where are you?
Yeah, over here. Yeah, thank you.
No, you're not going to join me. I've got the microphone. Moondow finance 2 seats on New Shepherd.
Yes. So
and that's who I was referring to earlier, by the way.
Well, so a bit more of a future looking question. So you mentioned orbital industry. First off, what time period do you see that becoming more of a reality? And second off, do you think that's going to be more in-house or out of house?
I'm sorry, orbital industry. I don't understand the question.
So on orbit manufacturing, is there anything that you would say that you're like?
Let's have more fun with that. Let's do what I do. I lead a program called Business Acumen. By the way, raise your hand if you're an engineer in the room. Okay, keep your hand up if you took a finance or accounting course in your undergrad. Wow, okay, that's actually really impressive. Did you guys go out of your way to do it? Because when I ask now, it's no. And so we graduate all these engineers who don't know how to talk to the finance or marketing people. And a really awesome idea by an engineer that the finance and marketing people don't understand goes nowhere. So I find that interesting. So here's one of the questions I always ask in Business Acumen. If Blue Origins, it's millions of people living and working in space for the benefit of Earth. What if our vision, what if our goal was 1 million people above the Kármán line in 1 year? January 1 to December 31, 1 million people above the Kármán line, 100 kilometers, 62 miles for the Americans. 1 million people in 1 year. And it's not just Blue Origin, it's everybody in industry does it. We get 1 million people above the Kármán line. And remember, 626 to date. So I'm asking the room, raise your hand and say, yeah, when I hit the decade when that'll happen, and this will answer his question. 1 million people above the Kármán line in 1 calendar year. Will that happen in the next 10 years? Yes. Raise your hand if you think that. In the next 10 years, we'll get 1 million people up in 1 year. Yep. Okay, 20 years? Yes. 30 years? 40 years? More than 40? Ladies and gentlemen, this is the most optimistic group that I have ever spoken with. That's awesome. That's awesome. But 1 million people. So it's decades. If I answered the question, I'm in the 50-ish year. We got work to do, but I do think when it happens, boom, it happens. I think we got to figure out a way to get it cheaper. And I'll give props to SpaceX, ourselves, some others. Like it is getting cheaper, but we need a radical improvement to make it happen. Anything else?
We're good. Thank you.
We're good.
Okay, well, that was great. So our next speaker is Erdenbold, which, okay, I guess you can take that. which I believe in Mongol means something like bold treasure. Okay, yeah, got it. Okay. You pick it right up. Anyway, Erdenbold is the basically one of the two heads of the Mars V organization. The other is the CEO, who is somewhere that I can't see him. All right. Well, he's around. It's known as the brain. Anyway, but Erdenbold is a very impressive person. He actually has a degree from Harvard Law and was a major in the Mongol army, commanded a unit supporting the Americans in Afghanistan, and is also the translator into modern Mongol of the Secret History of the Mongols, which is their national epic, which previously was only in more archaic version of Mongol. So he's both, and he's also a political leader. He was the head of I believe, the youth group of the Democratic Party of Mongol, which is one of the two major parties there. But he also has friends in the other party. So he's quite a character. So he's had this Mars V organization, which has got 3,000 members, including over 100 that are truly active members, and many of these are very accomplished people. And they've got plans to create a Mars analog research station in Mongolia. And Hope and I went over there, and they took us around and went all over the Gobi Desert and met a lot of influential people as well. And well, he'll tell you about that. Anyway, without further ado, let's have Erdenbold. Is this the mic for him?
Yeah.
Yep. Hey, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. And Michael, actually, I gave you one Mongolian vodka, which is blue color, exactly same color code with the blue origin. Welcome to Mongolia one day. And, you know, most of you think about yourself, just ordinary people. I think it's not true, because you guys are extraordinary people. Because last 3 days we are discussing about like humankind's destiny and humankind's obstacles and humankind's, you know, dream. We are not talking about politics, and we are not talking about gossips, and we are just talking about like how you know, humankind's next decade's gonna be, how it's shaped by the mastermind, the people's hand. That is what we talked. That is what we discussed. This is 25th years anniversary of Mars Society. The first of all, huge and strong gratitude to Mars Society and to Dr. Robert Zubrin and his beautiful wife, Hope Zubrin. And also to James Burke and his team and volunteers, thank you very much for doing this great event for us. Thank you very much. I would like to, you know, the Howard Kennedy School listed the 64 strong words in our human history. They listed the number 1 is imagine, the very strong word. You all know about like Albert Einstein's very famous quote about imagination. Like he said that logic will get you A to B, but imagination will take you everywhere. And today, the people who love, you know, imagine and its power, and you guys proud of yourself. This is a very great time. And tonight I have 2 short videos. The first video is about our Mars project. It's just 7 minutes. Second video is Dr. Robert Zubrin and his beautiful wife, Hope Zubrin's trip to Mongolia. It's about also 7 minutes. Then after that, I have very short introduction about Mars V project. Ladies and gentlemen, please watch our 2 videos. Thank you.
This is a very exciting moment for us, a one which we've been waiting for the past 2 years. And I've been given the honor and opportunity to present about our project on behalf of hundreds of Martians. And I don't want to bore you with numbers. This is a very exciting moment for us, a one which we've been waiting for the past 2 years. And I've been given the honor and opportunity to present about our project on behalf of hundreds of Martians. And I don't want to bore you with numbers and statistics, but I want to give you reasonings. Today, we're living in a generation of science, innovation, technology that not only transform the way we live, but to transform where we live. We're living at the beginning of history, at a unique location that has the richest history and uniqueness that has to offer for the Mars vision. Many of us sitting in this room today has, to some extent, found their answers to why Mars. As Dr. Zubrin defined, this is where the science is. This is where the future is. And this is where the challenge is. But then you might be thinking, why Mongolia? Because this is where the environment is, the history is, and the adaptive survival lifestyle is. Here's how. To the eyes of a globalized metropolitan world, Mongolia is a developing nation, struggling with resource curse, or even, let's say, a herder nation, trapped between the world's greatest economies. But beneath the surface, we have rich history and extreme climate conditions that has transformed our way of living. This hundreds of years of living in Mongolia has transformed its people with adaptive and survival lifestyle skills, always ready for a challenge. Nomadic Mongolians possess the best knowledge of how to recognize and use resources to its maximum capacity with zero waste in the wilderness environment. A truly compelling lifestyle. And our history proves that. So 3 things: the environment, the history, and the adaptive survival lifestyle. These 3 things together define Mongolia's competitive advantage as a nation for this mission. So now, I want to walk you through where we contribute and how we contribute for this mission. Every once in a while, technological advancements are introduced by the governments, but maybe more so now by the space entrepreneurs, making space travel much easier, cheaper, and accessible. So now let's imagine that the transportation system has been created. What's next? Next is the Mars settlement. So to establish the Mars settlement, there are numerous technologies that need to be developed, tested, and evaluated, such as Martian spacesuits, surface vehicles, robots, or even planting greenhouse agriculture in the environment, in the exact extreme environment. And this is what Mongolia has to offer. And this is where we contribute. Just to share some of our developments, we have designed the beta version of Martian spacesuit, rover, and dome, which is inspired from the traditional Mongolian ger. If you want to understand how a traditional Mongolian ger can be the most resourceful and utilized area to inspire for the development of a dome, then I invite you here. And I leave the philosophy to you. Moving on, many developing nations have set their, or let's say developed nations, have set their Mars ambitions. Whether it's public, private, they're somewhat linked with geopolitical agendas. Whereas our contribution is towards creating the Mars-like environment in Mongolia and also preparing the people with adaptive survival skills. And this will be achieved through developing training base, an R&D free zone, and a satellite city. In other words, this will be a truly borderless co-working space. And by that, I mean people from all over the world can come and join forces to collectively contribute for this mission, mankind's mission for Mars. So to reach this goal, we have passed the test of rationality in the past 3 years. On an institutional level, we're members of International Mars Exploration Working Group. We're members of Mars Exploration Program Analysis Group. We have presented to NASA, Indian Space Research Organization, and even to President Putin. But I want to highlight over here, we have onboarded many science and thought leaders led by Dr. Zubrin and Dr. Akiyama as our honorary advisors. Your contributions are greatly valued. On the internal side, for the past 3 years, we have the feasibility study approved by the Ministry of Environment and Tourism. We have established the government working group, which is aimed towards creating a fostering, nurturing environment for investment and public-private partnership in developing Mars V project. And very excitingly, very recently, we have obtained the rights to use land in the Gobi for this exact mission. So, our message is that Mongolia has a space mission. Mongolia has a Mars mission backed by reasons. We have government support. We have legislative support. We have scientific support. And most importantly, we have our people's support. Mongolia is ready to enter the global vision for Mars, and our commitment to it is absolute. We need supporters, we need investors, and we need you. And I invite you to join us. Thank you.
In the summer of 2022, the development of Mars exploration was marked by one significant event. Dr. Robert Zubrin, the founder of the Mars Society, visited Mongolia at the invitation of the Mongolian Aerospace and Research Science Association. Upon arrival, Dr. Zubrin and his wife, Mrs. Hope Zubrin, were warmly welcomed at the airport in Ulaanbaatar. The next morning, enthusiasts of the Mars V project greeted the Zubrins on the central square of the capital city. Many brought posters and cheered Zubrin with warm, welcoming words. After that, a trip to the province of Dondro started. Dondro means Middle Gobi in Mongolian. From the very onset of the trip, Dr. Zubrin couldn't hide his satisfaction with the commitment of his Mongolian friends to the project and their level of cooperation. Enthusiasts of the Mars View project have three main goals: to establish an international training academy for the future Mars explorers, to set up a special international zone of scientific and economic cooperation for the development of Mars research, a space-themed satellite city with all adequate infrastructures to invigorate the dreams of the human race to explore the planets of our solar system. This time, it was decided to start the trip with the Dondro province. Over 20 different locations across Mongolia are pre-selected as possible sites for establishment of analog research stations, and one in Dondro is the closest to the capital city of Mongolia. Dr. Zubrin examined the location and provided comments for further development of this place, such as criteria for the selection of campsites, equipment and infrastructure, resources required, and details of planning for various activities, among others. He also pointed to the distinct advantages of Mongolia in the development of Mars exploration programs, as well as an authentic lifestyle of nomadic herders. Nature that is untouched by civilization and almost perfectly resembles the Martian terrain. After spending 2 days in the Mongolian Gobi Desert, the guests returned to Ulaanbaatar just in time for the launch of the new edition of Dr. Zubrin's famous Case for Mars, recently translated into Mongolian. The head of the Mars Society was pleasantly surprised by the huge interest of Mongolians in space exploration, and especially in his book. The next pleasant surprise was strong support from the national government. During his visit, Dr. Zubrin had several important meetings with high-ranking officials such as the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, and the top administration of the Ministry of Environment and Tourism, the Ministry of Education, and the Ministry of Digital Development, all of whom expressed their support and assured their further cooperation.
Especially the Minister of Science and Education, really understanding the benefit of this project for Mongolia and for the world.
There were many more surprises expecting the Zubrins during their short stay in Mongolia. In their honor was presented a gala debut of the modern ballet Oranghas, the main plot of which unfolds around Mars, which was written almost 100 years ago by popular Mongolian author. Dr. Zubrin enjoyed his visit to the Astropark, a Mongolian space museum. The head of the Astropark, the first Mongolian astronaut Gurakhcha, warmly welcomed his American colleagues and led a personal tour of the museum. Dr. Zubrin was invited to the Children's Science Development Center, where a televised talk show was held with its honorable guest. The center was filled with the young participants asking about space exploration and Mars in particular. A young member of the Mars View project surprised everybody, inviting Dr. Zubrin to a dance just before the TV show started. Everybody cheered as the guests paid with the same token and returned the favor with a stunning dance step at the end. Tired but rejuvenated and happily surprised, Dr. Zubrin and his beloved wife Hope left Mongolia, but promised to return next year for the opening of the analog station in the Gobi.
So, before I came to Mongolia, I was very curious about it, and I wanted to see it, but I had limited expectations as to the possibilities of establishing a station here. But having come here, I think the possibilities are tremendous. Your team here is orders of magnitude stronger than I expected it would be. The Gobi itself is marvelous, and just in terms of how this could work here for your nation and for the world, I'm extremely impressed and extremely optimistic.
Mars V Team is set to become officially as Mongolian branch of the Mars Society.
Actually, he got points 10. It was super. The first, yeah, first try. Yeah. Most of the informations and the content is already inside of these two videos, and thank you very much. And this is clear. Okay, they're actually a little bit intensive because of time. Then our motto word is like Mars for everyone. And this is the Mongolian Gobi you saw like in previous videos. How does it look like? Does it look like Mars? Yeah, beautiful. We have lots of, like Gobi is actually 1.3 million square kilometers, but the 40% of this Gobi area is inside of the Inner Mongolia, and 60% of the Gobi is inside of the independent Mongolia, and which is like the coldest and hottest and extreme condition. We know we have 24 deserts in the earth, and the orange one is cold deserts, yellow one is hot deserts, and two green of them coastal deserts, and two blue of them polar deserts. And among these 7 cold deserts, Mongolian Gobi's temperature, you can see like a minus 42.2 by Celsius up to 45, by Celsius. It's almost 90-degree range. It's a huge, coldest and hottest in the earth, which is, there is no option. This is only way to, we can make a perfect experimental works like Mars-like. And actually, just Michael asked about like how many years after, how many decades after it's possible, to send 1 million people. And we are talking about like it's about economics, it's about economy, and it's about technology, and it's about like humankind's understanding and joint vision. And just right before pandemic, end of 2019, the world economic, it was 88 trillion US dollar. In 27 years from today, by 2050, like world economic will reach 250 trillion. It's a huge number. And because of that economic growth, we have lots of, obstacles will come up. The first thing is resource shortage, water and energy and food. And that time, 2050, world population will reach about at least 9.8 billion to 10.2 billion. It's a huge number. And third thing is environmental degradation, and we have natural disasters and global general epidemics, and that's going to be reality in the future. And instability is also one of the great challenges and obstacles for us in the next few generations. Even today, we have critical condition. For example, Mongolia is between China and Russia. Russia, they're doing like war crime, and Vladimir Putin is doing like, all Mongolians against this kind of brutal, things. It's against the human dignity. It's against human, dream. And our neighbor is doing such, I'm not saying our neighbor, but like bunch of people, like Putin and just some people doing wrong things. We should stand in for our democracy and free society and human right. That's our point. That's why we are here. Yeah. We're in China, it's difficult condition, but we have thousands of years neighborhood, relations. But in Mongolian history, we made lots of things. But today also, one of my purpose to stand here is I really want to change maybe some of yours typical understanding about like Mongolian legacy and our ancestors, and trade war and technological competition and armed conflicts. We will more deeply face that kind of problems. But what is the solution? What is the gate and what is the exit? This is the humankind's, vision. The talking about Mars is not about technological revolution. It's not about like technological decision or solutions. It's about humankind's dream to reach new level of lifestyle. It's about like human dream, and which means last 3 days, we talked about lots of things about Mars and technology, but this is not about only Mars. This is about the humankind's future and our destiny. That's the point. That's why I said you guys, extraordinary people in here in the world. Our project's motto is connecting humankind's vision to reach Mars. And the Mars vision, it has 3 main pillars. First one is develop of scientific discoveries for the exploration of new planets. Second one is effort to aid in this settlement in the harshest environment. The third one is initiative for peaceful cooperation. And for that, the Mongolia, some people, don't know about Mongolia enough. But Mongolia, and our ambition is, in the future, how can we give great value contribution to humankind's prosperity process? That's our point, which is we have 3 values to humankind's, technological development and Mars mission. The first one is Mongolian Gobi itself is a treasure of humankind. Second thing is nomadic lifestyle. It's not about herders. It's not about like countryside. It's about like Mongolian people's mindset and lifestyle is deeply rooted how to survive and how to be adaptive. That is great point. The third thing is Mongolia's position. Since 1997, we declared Mongolia's nuclear-free zone. We are standing for democracy. We are standing for human rights. We are standing for like human dignity. It's officially, legally, this project is supported by government, and that's why we are here. And our project is divided 3 main points. The first thing is Mars Research and Development Training Center. Second one is International Think Tank for Mars. Third one is Mars Simulation Tourism Center. And then now we are focusing to our purpose, and we have 4 main targets. The first one is R&D development. Second one is international cooperation. We have great cooperation with the NASA, JAXA, ESA, ISRO, and lots of countries, organizations. Of course, like Mars Society is one of our father and, godfather organization. And the third thing is human resources. The fourth one is legal environment. And this is what we are doing now. This is like Martian machine. And the gentleman, Amalam Battery, is come to this event. And this is our engineering team. And we are doing this Martian career. And every single centimeters and inches is just, we are just doing like based on statistics and Martian and Mongolian Gobi's condition. Then of course, we mentioned before in the video, like how Mongolian gear transformed to Martian portable dome. And I would like to highlight one thing. You know, we have one story like in 1931, during the Soviet Union, Soviet troop entered Mongolia, like one old Mongolian lady, like age of like 70s or 80s, I don't know. First she saw like a tank, and then, you know, she tried to kill, you know, she tried to burn because she thought it's animal, you know. And then in that generation, Mongolian poet, just 25-year-old poet, his name is Nasir Dorj, he wrote poetry about Mars. He asked lots of scientific questions, you know. And even 800 years ago, the Genghis Khan used that stamp for his state symbol and horse, the circle and vertical line and horizontal line. What it means is the horizontal line is the earth, the vertical line is the human achievement, the circle is the space. 30,000 years ago, it is on the stone script. And 8,000 years ago, it is also still in the stone script. This is the symbol of the Mongolian, you know, the ancestors. This mean is like Mongolian ancestors, not only like Mongolian, just nomadic people's, you know, aspiration and inspiration, and their cognitive desire is to reach the space. That means like Mongolia, even its developing country, we have deeply rooted ancestors who inspired space. That is the point. And then during the Middle Ages, the Mongolian kings and created universities. They created like big planetariums. That is the point. And shortly and briefly, I'm saying that maybe today is like the Dr. Robert Zubin mentioned lots of times, like today is the not end of the humankind history. This is the new beginning of the humankind's history. We need to believe that vision, no matter what kind of, like, you know, number of people, no matter like the race, no matter the religions, like we deeply and, you know, strongly believe Mars mission. Even Mongolian young generation is very much strongly standing for this vision. That is what I want to say today, you know. And then end of the story, I would like to share my story, but I didn't plan to talk to this story. And, you know, 1962, October 22nd, exactly 60 years ago from today, it was like the, you know, Russia and America, they had conflict. It might be like nuclear, you know, war. Since that time, 60 years, is still, you know, humankind in conflict of kind of war threat. That is happening, which means the exit is, solution is we need to strongly make Mars vision and Mars mission together. That is maybe like the new point, how humankind make great collaboration to the future. That is the point. And then 1963, August 28th, the Martin Luther King said, "I have a dream," speech, you know. And that is, of course, different metaphor. But in 2006, December 22nd, I went to US consular section. And that time, I don't have no English, you know, I didn't speak English, but I memorized Martin Luther King's "I Have a Dream" speech. It's like 13 minutes, you know. And then I went to consular cabin. The name was Lisa Connor, the consul, the lady, and she adopted Mongolian son. And actually, she asked me one question: "What is your purpose to USA?" Like, then I just started my memorized Martin Luther King's speech. And I am happy to join with you today in what will go down in history, blah, blah, blah. It's like after 5 minutes, she admired and just, speechless. And then she asked me, how many years do you need? I said, 1 year is enough. She said like, okay, I'm going to give you 5 years and then good luck and best of luck. She said that. And from that day, like it's 16 years happened. But, since that time, lots of things happened. But comparing with 16 years and 16 years ago's day and today, it's unbelievable, front of you guys, like the advanced minded and mastermind of the humankind. And the Mars is not like typical topic. It's like advanced and it's like a dream topic. And then before front of you guys, I'm talking like that, especially talking about Mars and especially talking about like humankind's next generation, upcoming, like dream, how it's come true like a reality in our life. It's beautiful. And thank you very much, all of you. And thank you very much giving this great opportunity for us, for Mongolians, Dr. Robert Zubrin, and especially beautiful lady, and Hope Zubrin. I really love you. Thank you very much. The decision has been made. Journey is just beginning. Thank you very much again. Why not? Why not? Thank you very much. Yeah. Thank you very much. Then I have my beautiful wife here. This is also 16th years anniversary of wedding. Thank you. And I have 9 members of our engineering team. And thank you very much. Okay, Q&A.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Thanks. I find fascinating your history, your culture, that you're going to have Mars in the Gobi Desert. Thank you very much. And thank you, Dr. Zubrin, for inspiring this work for us. It's just a major accomplishment. And you made me curious about the history of your culture with respect to the skies and the constellations. Desert people create their own stories about constellations. Could you tell us a little bit more about the constellations and your culture's view of the planets and constellations and your origin myth? That's a lot of questions, but pick one.
Professor Jack Weatherford published 4 books about Mongolians. And the first book is The Secret History of the Mongol Queens. Actually, second book. And first book is The Making of the Genghis Khan and Making of the Modern World. The second one is like The Secret History of the Mongol Queens. And the third one is Genghis Khan and Quest for the God. Like Thomas Jefferson gave his granddaughter, in her birthday, and he gave a book about Genghis Khan. And also, Benjamin Franklin ordered like more than 20 years from France and UK book about the Genghis Khan. This book is actually forbidden by Catholic Church until 1961. This is actually a forbidden book, but the ordinary people thinking about Mongolia is like their ancestors were barbarians, like destroyed like hundreds of cities, made like a huge bloody works. But the reality is totally different. What I mean is like actually 800 years ago, like in Mongolian generation, the religious freedom was, like huge happened. In Mongolian, like a capital city, like all church there, all kind of people's belief was free to, express themselves. That is the point. Then our ancestors' great will is based on the spiritual power. We call it like under the eternal blue sky. Under the eternal blue sky, I mean, like we call ourselves like may bliss under the eternal blue sky. Our project is from under the eternal blue sky to the Martian eternal blue sky. that is like great journey. And thank you very much. I would like to mention and highlight the freedom to think and freedom to express their own ideas. It was like one of the great point of our ancestor. Yeah. Thank you. Mr. John Brandenburg. I think it's not about the Mongolians' answer. It's about like humankind's answer, but we will try in our best. Thank you very much.
Yes, so you are Mongolian, and yet you're participating in international efforts to get to Mars. And when we do get to Mars, how do you, in your imagination, how do you imagine Mongolians could preserve their culture in Mars and yet be part of like an international Mars base? How, in your imagination, how do you keep your culture but being also part of an international culture?
You know, the reality is like 90% of our economic export is related to mining, actually, and which is we really want to make inclusive economics the first thing, and second thing is, of course, like, we really want to make rebranding of our nation. You know, it's like you know, imagine like as a Mongolian citizen between like China and Russia, and you know, landlocked country, but we said that okay, we are a landlocked country, okay, but we can be get to the Mars. We have, you know, like exit to the space. That is the point. Of course, your question is very interesting, and when you come to Mongolia, please welcome to Mongolia. When you come to Mongolia, you will feel how Mongolian people is very adaptive and, you know, very much survival, you know, skilled. This is, for example, until my high school, every morning, 5 a.m., I just, you know, wake up and then with my like horse, and then almost 20 miles, you know, circled and collected my horses, like we call like 4 stallions horse, and then, you know, collected. It takes like 2.5 hours, and then I just gave them water. And, you know, like until my age of 18 years old, I, you know, made that things. It made me, you know, like a kind of like strength, internal strength, you know. Then when we facing obstacles, I think it's not about, you know, like tough for me. When I came to America first time, the television, I saw lots of advertisement about like stress and depression and medicine like that. Even I went to Japan, also I saw many different kind of like medicine and allergies, you know. Then in Mongolia, we don't have like that because we are so busy, too busy. There is no space to make, you know, into the depressed, you know. That's why we are, you know, so kind of attractive, you know. Like this is just one point, you know. But in other way, like we really want to, you know, keep our spiritual legacy and our identity. That's the great point. But early, you know, in Flaming Cliffs, like Andrews found first time like dinosaur's egg, and then in that generation, like more than 100 years ago, the National Geographic and some magazine, like in 20th century, the more than 100 nations destroyed and eliminated, you know, abolished. I mean, then Mongolia is still there. Actually, Mongolia listed number 6, but after 100 years after, we are still here, and see, you know, standing here, and we have independent country as the 3.5 million Mongolians, but we have 5 or 6 different Mongolians, you know, like outside of our border. In Russia, we have Tula Mongolia, like Buryat Mongolia, Kalymyk Mongolia. In Inner Mongolia, instead of the China part, we have Inner Mongolia and lots of Mongolians. But independent Mongolia is like 3.5 million people and 1.6 million square kilometer landscape and huge opportunity. And 1944, July 2nd, American Vice President Henry Agar Dulles visited to Mongolia, And then 11 days after, he reported to Franklin Delano Roosevelt about Mongolia. And of course, they were like they have like a Russian political impact is so strong in Mongolia. But the Mongolians, they have like the vision to make independence, fires on their eyes, lights on their face. He said that actually, which means we have like great ambition to keep our identity to the future. Yep. Thank you very much. Stan?
Any more questions?
Yep. Okay, no questions. So thank you very much. It's great evening. And Mongolian team, always next to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Yeah, and by the way, one of those books, I think it was the first book, Jack Weatherford wrote, Genghis Khan and the Making of the Modern World. I've read that book. It's a very good book. And I think it'll give you the big picture about Mongolia and its place in history. Okay, so I guess it is time.
Robert, can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Tell us a little bit more about your experience. We saw the video briefly where you went to Mongolia, and now you've heard some more from them. What are your feelings right now about working with our Mars V colleagues?
Okay, well, okay, they're going to have to get their archery up if they're going to match our standard. Okay, no, this is incredible. I mean, I was contacted by Erdenbold and Munkhast, who is here, I don't know, a couple of years ago, and they told me they were doing some stuff in Mongolia, and I said, that's great. But my impression was it was probably a group of 10 or 15 people. And and then we went there, and as I said, the Mars V has got like 3,000 people, including bank presidents and cabinet ministers and so forth, and a lot of influential support, and also a fairly large core of very active volunteers, but also Mongolia itself. It's interesting. Well, first of all, yeah, they're outdoor people, and a lot of the stuff that we had to figure out how to get by in the Arctic, they do as a matter of routine. Okay. So, and as you don't have to explain to them what a burn barrel is or whatever, they know how to deal, how to rough it. But so there's that. And also another thing that I found interesting, they're a much more participatory culture than what we have become. We used to be more participatory. I mean, I'm old enough to remember a somewhat different America, but for example, I mean, you saw what happened. I'm on this TV show, right? And with one of these fake living rooms, and the guy's going to talk to you. And so they had this warm-up act of this Mongolian opera singer comes out, and he's just belting out all these arias, okay, which was, by the way, he had an incredible voice, okay. But and then he got to one song, wasn't exactly an opera song. I think it was some kind of popular Mexican song, but it was kind of danceable. And this woman comes up to the audience, and she grabs me, and we just start dancing. Or the thing with the archery, in the bow and arrow, they get out in the morning, they start to do this. Hey, you want to try it? Well, I had actually been pretty good at archery as a kid, so I said yes. And I kind of astonished Hope by hitting the target, but she hadn't known that was in my skill set. But things like that, or one of the members of Mars V who's not here, unfortunately, is a person who's one of the top folk singers in Mongolia. And so we're out there, and he entertained the dinner one night by singing this song about this horse that had been sold from Mongolia into China, and it escaped, and it wants to get back to Mongolia, and it's getting back there, and finally it reaches the Gobi Desert, but it can't quite cross it. It's dying, and so it calls upon the north wind to bring it one last scent of home. It's a kind of a moving song, but they all knew it, and they all singing along with him. Okay, now when I was a kid, people sung. Okay, we used to sing in the car in my family. People don't sing that much here in America anymore. Okay, it's a performance thing. You listen to people sing, you don't sing. But they do. Anyway, so well, just to put it simply, I think they're good people, and I really look forward to working with them. Some stuff. Yeah, we're going to do some awards. So first of all, let's get right to it, because I know there's people out there that want to know. We had, the telerobotic Mars competition. Now, somewhere here I have written who the winner is. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I got it. So we'll start. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these teams are not actually here and presented virtually, but I hope that the word will get out. There actually are 5 prizes. The first prize is $10,000, and second is $5,000, and third is $2,500, and then the next one was $1,000, and then $500. So in 5th place, but they all get a trophy. Okay, so sorry.
This is for the students.
Oh, that's right. Okay, these are the other trophies. Okay, this is the Telerobotic Mars Mission Design Competition. In 5th place, where'd it go? Is the team labeled Spaceship EAC. Okay. In 4th place. Okay, and if you're here, the Northern Shores Innovation Institute, it's a Canadian team. I believe they had someone here.
Yeah, I suppose he's not at the banquet.
It was a woman, wasn't it? A young woman.
Yes, Samantha.
Samantha. Where's Samantha? You don't want your $1,000. Okay. And a trophy. Okay. In 3rd place, and I know this one's not here, but it's well earned, is Carl Greenbaum. It's an individual. Second place, now we're getting to the serious money, $5,000, and well, beating all but one of the other teams, is In Space, the Polish team. So Poland, which frequently wins the rover contest, has now placed very strongly in the telerobotic Mars competition. And finally, in 1st place, Robert Mills. Come on up, Robert Mills. You're here. I saw you. Well, thank you.
I'd like to say to everybody, winning this is, it's not whether I won or not. It's the fact that the ideas get shared with everyone and that all the best ideas from all the teams get actually used. That's what's important.
Yeah. And I would say, commenting on, well, the first two designs, Robert's and also the Polish design, both involve the robotic mission deploying a lab to Mars that would be well instrumented, and then numerous rovers that could go out and both do science and bring samples back to the lab, so that, you know, right now you have to put all the instruments on the rover. That greatly limits what it could do. Now, as he pointed out, you're not going to know what the questions are that you're going to need to follow up and investigate. So instead of a bunch of fixed experiments, okay, a la Viking, and you say, does Mars have life? Mars says, could you rephrase the question? You have a lab and you can conduct any number of investigations. So it was a really good job. And his was, in my view, extremely implementable version. And it's something that we could really do. So thanks. Okay, so that's the rover competition. So we're just going to put these in their places so they can be sent to the relevant parties. Okay, no, those are those. Okay.
To the students.
You want to do the students? Okay. Well, oh, okay. So we're going to do the students. The teams, okay. Yeah, but they're not. Okay, is the American Central team here? I don't think they are. Okay, but yeah, but actually there's not, I mean, it's already been announced. Everybody knows the Asian team won first place, and their other teams took various places, but actually each of the other teams won first place in a category. So for instance, the team from the, I guess, I have no idea, which is what, team 5, East Coast America, right? Yeah.
Team 5, yeah, that was East Coast.
Yeah, so the East Coast American team, which actually won the prize for the best science mission design. Okay, so are you here from the East Coast America? Why don't you come on up, the whole team, stay up here. You know, only one of you? Okay. All right. Then actually the West Coast America team won the first prize for the best engineering design. Okay, so there's your trophy, and also you get some certificate, or do you have them by name? Okay, so you may wonder how the Asians could have won the contest if two other teams won the best science and the best engineering. Okay, well, the answer is they didn't have the best science and they didn't have the best engineering, and the Asian teams were strong across the board. But there's another team, which was the European team, which actually won on cost and also came very close on science. So Europeans, are you here? Hey, don't run away. Where'd the Europeans go? The Poles. You're not here? Got no Poles? They were here in force earlier. All right, well, we'll have to send this to Poland. Okay, and now the Asians. First place. Well, where's, come on up. Okay, so these guys, okay, they actually took the first place in the human factors side category itself. But they also, if you took the points across the board, they took the contest. So, all right. So now, in addition, we have, because they were in fact the winning team, they get individual plaques. Okay, so who's Carl?
That's Carl.
Okay, Vashti.
Thank you.
Is Venkata here?
I'm right here.
Okay. Brian. Okay. Arya, I think, couldn't make it.
Yep. I can. You can give it to her.
Yeah.
But are you
Yes, we're giving it a shot.
okay? And then Maya is also,
Not here.
but you're going to get hers to her. Okay. Vib have
Right here.
and Michael.
Not here, but we can give it to.
Who gets it for Michael?
Oh.
Who is easiest to get it to Michael?
I'll try to take it.
You take it. All right. So there they are, and congratulations. All right. All right. Keep it. All right. Congratulations. And I want to thank all the student team members, the winners and the others, all of them, because they made the case for what we're going to try to do. That is, I thought this experiment was, well, I thought it would work, but not everything I think would work actually does. They made it work. You know, they proved that this can work. This use of the engineering design class in high schools as a new way of teaching, that it really can work. And they're the ones that made it work. It's, you know, so, all right.
So what we're going to do next is our raffle. So we're going to be picking 10 numbers.
Okay, 10 numbers. Okay, now I have to close my eyes because I have a conflict of interest here. Okay, number 43. Well, by the way, before, where's the list of the prizes? Well, no, you can bring up the list of the prizes. All right. Okay.
Walk through it. There is no specific list because.
No, there's a list of 10 prizes.
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, now give me the list of the prizes.
You want me to write it down for you?
Well, you gave me a list earlier. Where's the list?
Get you that list. How we decided to make it a little bit more interesting for the participants.
Well, it's actually, no, just give me the list.
There's.
Okay. We can't do this without the list. Okay. It's going to turn this into, you know, white elephant thing or whatever. No. We're just going to do that. Okay. While we're waiting on that, number 43, we'll find out what they won. Okay.
Let's start with URC.
Yeah. Okay. We have awards for members for things they've actually done.
This is our annual Outstanding Volunteer Award. We give these out every year to the volunteers that work the hardest.
Yeah, well, we actually pulled the names out of a hat. It's kind of like, but no. Okay, so first of all, very important award for someone who really has done a great deal for the Mars Society and for Mars and for science education. And this is for Kevin Sloan for organizing the University Rover Challenges. This is a program that he's run since around 2007 and started out with a few teams. It's for the past decade or so, it's been about 30 teams a year have shown up in the desert, you know, typically 10 or so students and more of them on their home front. And so we're talking about thousands and thousands of young engineers have had a chance to develop and demonstrate their talents by designing Mars rovers and competing them for exploration in the desert. And he is the guy that really is most responsible, along with a large team of volunteers that he has organized, but they deserve a great deal of credit too. But certainly Kevin Sloan. Okay.
And then Daryl.
Okay. Okay, so Daryl Robertson is for outstanding service and extraordinary work in support of the University Rover Challenge. Okay, this is here. Okay, it's none of these people are going to be here. That's just going to speed it up.
Well, hold on. This one, we're going to have this one be accepted by someone here. So let's read this one off.
Okay. This is an award for Leah Malmos for outstanding service and extraordinary work on marketing and design assistance for the Mars Society.
So Leah is a volunteer that joined us this year, and Michael Lane, who's been helping us with AV as a volunteer at the conference this year, is going to speak a little bit on her behalf.
Hey, y'all. Thank you for everybody who's been a part of this. This has been a tremendous experience for everybody, I think. Hats off to the Mongolian team. That's really amazing stuff. Leah has really just joined the Mars Society community in the last maybe 4 or 5 months. And she just jumped in with both feet, just with everything she's got. It's kind of become a full-time, part-time job for her. And so you haven't seen her. She's not kind of visible to everybody, but every image, all the imagery that you see, some of the new stuff on the website, some of the graphics that you see behind us is the backdrop, all throughout the Zoom programs, every single speaker that sent us, I don't know, 100, 120, 150 resumes, bios, images, abstracts. She did all of that. Well, maybe not all of it, but she did an awful lot of it. So on behalf of her, thanks everybody for being a part of this. I think it couldn't happen without all of us working together.
Thank you, Michael. And then finally, we have 3 awards for the team that works on the Mars VR project. Now, this is a project that we've been working on for 5 years. It's an example, and you may have heard my talk on it on day 1 of our conference. This is an example of us trying to do cutting edge research to advance humans to Mars in the field of virtual reality. And so our partner on this has been Jeff Rayner from Mixed Reality in Seattle. Jeff has donated hundreds of hours of his time promoting Mars VR in the VR community, in the tech industry community, in the Seattle community. And so Jeff wins the first award for Mars VR. So thank you, Jeff. Unfortunately, he had to catch his flight, but he's been here at the conference. Many of you have talked to him. And then 2 of his excellent developers at his company have also spent long nights and weekends on their own time helping with Mars VR, and that's Nelson Reed and David Wickstrom. And so on behalf of them, I'm like to thank them, and we'll deliver these to them myself in Seattle. So thank you.
Okay. So, all right, now we can get on to the show. It turns out that number 43. By the way, is number 43 here? Stand up, number 43. It's Max. Okay, you have won a Chinese Mars cat. That is the bring up the Mars cat.
Parrot. I have a parrot.
And number 9 also is a Mars cat. This is actually a stuffed animal that's very famous in China. Our director of our China chapter, Angela Sui, has put this cat all over social media in China. It's very famous. If you translate its name to English, it's called Mars Meow. And so this is actually the first time we've had these at the conference. She sent these over for us special. And so
you already pulled number 9?
No, you're holding number 9.
I'm not holding number 9. I'm holding number 101.
Number 101.
Sorry, number 9. Okay. Number 101. You also get a Chinese Mars cat.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Hey.
And number 8 is also.
What are you talking about?
I'm reading off we're going counting down to the best prize.
Oh, these are the prizes.
Yes.
No. The idea is I pull a number out and then but okay. So
who's going to win number 8, the Mars cat, number 3 here? We're getting confused with numbers. It's been a long couple days.
No, you just forget about numbers. I'm reading the numbers.
Okay.
Okay. This is number 83 wins the final Mars cat of the night.
All right. Enjoy.
Okay, now this is 1. Okay, the next 3 are going to be the t-shirts. Okay, now
I want to talk a little bit about our t-shirt and our poster design. We do a design contest every year for our convention poster. And this year it was won by a very talented woman from South America. And she's been so fantastic about giving us versions of this image to use with our conference promotion. And she actually helped design this t-shirt as well. And so she's very talented, and well, thank you very much for that.
Okay, so there we go. Now you don't need to be afraid to lose your shirt because you'll have another one.
And if this one doesn't fit you, we can accommodate you at the merch table.
This is number 9.
Number 9.
Number 9. Is there a number 9?
She's right here. Yes, that's it.
Cool. Thanks, guys.
Congratulations. Prize number 6.
I think that was just number 6.
Who's on first?
Okay. This is, it's number 81. Number 81, 9 squared. Is there a number 81 in the house?
She's coming.
Thank you.
You're so welcome.
Okay.
And prize number 5.
No. It's number 60. Did he just win 2 prizes?
He did. And he won an award too, I believe. Yes. Jim, the book is Case for Mars, right?
Not, well, no, there's 3 books.
They take their pick. Okay, Roger.
No, the first book, no, it's not how it goes. We start with one of the other books and we get up to the best book last. Okay, now, so this is a book. Okay, but it's a pretty good book. It's called Red Planet Leadership by James Melton, the creator of the Mars Ambassador Program. And number 70.
Number 7.
Now, this book is not autographed, but there's a James Melton is here, and he will probably autograph it for you. There you go. Okay, so she really did have number 70. Okay. All right, the next book, The War of the Singularity, The Human Race is Canceled, by Victor Norgad, and this is autographed. So, number 51. And finally,
on the books, prize number 2.
Prize number 2. Many people would think this is the best prize of all. Okay, but it is prize number 2. And if you don't win it, you can still buy them. Number 50.
Oh, Marge Lipton. All right. Congratulations.
Okay, and now finally.
And I don't know if you were here, Robert, but when Pam Melroy was done with her talk yesterday, I handed her one of these MOVA globes. I told her that we did a bunch of research, actually that was led by Jim Earhart, and we found that this was the best designed, most beautiful Mars globe we could find that's out there today.
Okay, now you'll notice it's turning. That's because the light is shining on it, which is generating electricity, which is charging up a magnet, which interacts with the Earth's magnetic field, causing Mars to turn. Okay. Okay. So, well, we just had a talk yesterday by Jim Green about creating a magnetic field on Mars. Okay. Which if we could do it and then alternate it every 24 hours, we could speed up Mars's rotation. For what purpose, I'm not sure, but there you go. We could change Mars to have the same rotational as the Earth, and then we could use the very same clocks on Mars that we use on Earth. This would save a great deal of money. Okay. All right, so close my eyes. 11. Come on, 11. Does that look like 11 to you? More like 87. Well, all right, now this thing is being kind of wackadoo.
You can just hand them the globe.
Take the globe and now take the stand.
And we do have a box for you so you could bring it home on the airplane.
Right.
You're welcome.
Can you get those through airport security?
I'm pretty sure you can.
Okay, wow. All right. So that concludes the raffle. And now, if I'm not mistaken, this is the part where I'm supposed to speak. Is that true? All right, I guess I'll speak. The banquet speech. Okay, so sort of customary at this point for me to try to sum it up the situation. Situation is a mixture of danger and promise, opportunity. The flip sides of the same thing. It's a very unstable situation right now. But there are chances here for us to realize our vision. Look, we want to think of the big picture. You do have this new space initiative moving forward. That is, as well as old space. Okay, SLS is within a month of attempted launch. Actually, it's been within a month of attempted launch for a couple of months now, but sooner or later it's going to launch. Well, we'll see what happens, but the chances are good they will succeed. It is, after all, basically a space shuttle without the shuttle, so they should be able to do it. And if they do it, NASA will have a heavy lift capability for the first time since the 1970s. And at the same time, there's another team active in Boca Chica, as you may have heard, and they are working on revving up the Starship. And it's a little unclear when they'll get all the permits they need to launch. And there's a good chance their first launch won't succeed, but they're prepared to deal with that. They've got several more copies. They will launch, crash, until they get it right, and they'll get it right. And that means that by 2024, there will be two operational heavy lift, unprecedented, in the United States alone. And I do believe that, by the way, that fact will inspire the Chinese to want to develop their own heavy lift, and they will. Who's that? Okay. All right. So, okay. And now the importance of this is not going to be lost on people, including people who are not necessarily passionate about the things we're passionate about. But these are people who are very serious. That is to say, look, there's war in Ukraine. You want to know what? It's a space war. It is. Because it's being decided by space technology on the one side, and essentially lack of sufficient on the other. That is the reason why the Ukrainians, even though they're outgunned 10-1, are fighting level, maybe better than level, with the Russians, is because of space technology, space-based communication, space-based reconnaissance, space-based targeting. Okay, this is decisive, and the whole world is watching this, including the power elites of every country. And this makes it clear that if there ever is going to be a major war between major powers, this is going to be absolutely decisive. And this is going to mean a lot more money going into advancing space technology. And it is going, in this country anyway, it will go to expanded government support for this new space revolution, because this new space revolution, I mean, one of the Starlinks are a direct result of new space. They are a new space capability. They would not exist without it. And the Starlinks themselves, and of course the Falcons, which have been launching them, launching 1,000 satellites or more. I've lost count in a year or two. Once again, I don't know, but they basically at this point, there's about as many Starlink satellites up there as there are all other satellites put together. It's on the same order. And it's only been launched in a couple of years, and that's because of a new space capability. And another thing about that relates to, one of the designs of our telerobotic Mars mission today, the one that came in second, the Polish design, they had 144 rovers delivered to Mars within their 10-ton lander. In the debate on Thursday night, Jim Bell made the argument, you can't have a mission with hundreds of rovers because, the Spirit and Opportunity, whatever, they cost, $1 billion a piece or whatever they cost, but some large number each. And the second one was only slightly less expensive than the first. Well, guess what? A medium-sized satellite, like a Starlink satellite, might cost $50 million to develop, but Musshore didn't spend 1,000 times $50 million to launch 1,000 of them. Okay, that would have been $50 billion. Okay, that is the capability of mass production of things. So if we're talking about having heavy lift capability that can deliver 10 tons, 20 tons to Mars, we can indeed have missions with hundreds of rovers on them, and with all that implies. Anyway, so this is something that's there. The space is going to become a lot more important real soon, and the capability of new space, that is entrepreneurial space. New space is I get that term. I think Rick Tomlinson made it up, but it has stuck. The entrepreneurial space as a way to do this is gaining a lot of credibility, provided it's not discredited by random statements made by its most important leader. But okay, in any case, so this is happening. And this is, of course, these capabilities will open up enormous possibilities for space exploration and space settlement. Okay, once again, heavy lift, it's coming very shortly. And also much cheaper medium lift is already here. And of course, once again, while the SpaceX has been the spearhead of this, we now have Blue Origin. Within a couple of years, we'll have its new Glenn. The Neutron of the Rocket Lab will also be operational in that time frame as well. So that should give some frisky competition, which will help drive down prices. And as prices come down, okay, more business plans that are being offered by space entrepreneurs for in-space activities will become realistic, which means there will be more launches. And if there's more launches, prices will come down more, okay? Furthermore, the lower the cost of launch, the less conservative spacecraft designers need to be. Okay, it's the cost of space launch comes down, you could be more adventurous. For the past half century, since about 1970, we developed some way to do anything you needed to do in space. Okay, so there was an established way to do pretty much anything you needed to do. So the question is, why do you need to do anything else? Okay, why take a chance on something new when your launch costs $500 million? Okay, save $10 million to risk $500 million. It makes no sense. Don't do it. Don't do anything that hasn't been done before. Don't use anything. It's like the person who won't see any movies he hasn't seen before because there's so much junk out there. Why risk it? Okay. Stick with The Wizard of Oz. And okay, it's a good movie. Okay. Take a random chance on Netflix. Chances are you won't do as well. But now they'll be less conservative. Now, some of those experiments will fail, yes. but some will succeed. And that means more effective spacecraft technology, cheaper, lighter, or simply more powerful. One of those combinations. So space launches getting cheaper, space technology becoming more cost effective means more of these business plans that people talk about become realistic. You know, back in the 80s, NASA said, you know, we're going to have the shuttle and we'll have a space station, and together we can have orbital research labs. And this is be a thing to do orbital research on a space station, taking advantage of hard vacuum, or zero gravity, or something else like that. Well, that model, while there were a few tests, and I don't know, Max, were you involved in these tests with the fiber optics in the space station? No comment. Okay. Maybe. Okay. But anyway, there were a few tests of this orbital lab kind of thing, but it never took off on the space station, and it never could because of it's too expensive. It would take too long to get all the permits to do anything, too laborious a process. And in addition, you've got an orbital lab with not only people outside your company visiting your lab, but people from other countries visiting your lab. And not many corporations want to do that. And, you know, and certainly not many corporations are going to want to launch a $30 billion private space station. Okay. But now with the cost of space launch coming down and the cost of other space technologies coming down, there are private companies that are proposing and are in the process of building private space stations that'll be orbital research labs. They include Blue Origin, Axiom, Nano Racks, and so forth. So that's going to be a thing. Reusable space launch, which is now, okay, reusable space launch was a bomb from a cost reduction point of view on the shuttle, because a requirement of the shuttle was that it support the paychecks of a very large number of people, which meant that intrinsically it had a requirement to be expensive. Okay. But of course, the people creating these new reusable launch systems, they're trying to make them support the fewest number of people, which is, of course, how you actually get it to be cheap. Okay, where am I going with this? Well, but anyway, look, reusable launch vehicles means there will be used launch vehicles. So new cars can be pretty expensive, but almost anybody can buy a car right now if you're willing to buy a used car. Okay, and you know, that's how it is. So there's going to be used rockets for sale. Think about that. Used rockets. And of course, these things, reusable rockets, also opens up eventually the capability for intercontinental travel through space, anywhere to anywhere in less than an hour. That's waiting to happen. Okay, so you want to emigrate to Mars, buy a used, you know, space liner from Astrolinea Mexicana, and pick it up for $5 million and go. I mean, this is a potential that is being created. Now, we also have, okay, so this is all the pregnant with possibilities, but there are things that could stop it, certainly with respect to Mars. The planetary protection people are out there, you know, and if they have their way, human Mars missions are impossible. Okay, they've made even robotic Mars missions very difficult. The reason why the sample return mission is this thing with multiple launches, including a European orbiter with solar panels with a wingspan the size of a 747, is because this requirement to do an autonomous rendezvous and dock in Mars orbit has been introduced into the architecture. So they're willing to even make the sample return more difficult, and it simply makes human Mars missions impossible. And so, and also, well, while the issue of military space superiority does give powerful support, in principle anyway, to the federal government giving Starship the necessary permits to allow itself to launch and be developed. If the government was to become hostile to that enterprise at any point, whether the point of allowing Starship to be developed or allowing Starship to be used for Mars missions, it can't happen. Okay, so look, the Mars Society, and of course, right now the government does not have a Humans to Mars program. It nominally has a Humans to the Moon program, although that is not being pursued in a way that would actually make humans to the moon a reality in any particular time frame. But to return to the subject, the Mars Society does basically three things. Okay, general outreach to spread the vision, political work to try to defend the existing Mars programs, and we've had a significant role in that. We had a significant role in expanding the robotic Mars program starting in the late 90s and in saving the Curiosity mission, which was up for cancellation around 2008 or so. And of course, our own projects, such as the Mars stations, the rover contests, and so forth. Now, the second two initiatives can be quantified. And as I can tell you, we've had 1,500 crew members in either the desert station or the Arctic station. I think it's about 4,000 students have participated in the University Rover Challenge, or the Polish. There's the European Rover Challenge that our Polish chapters have organized that has gone on now for several years and have a significant attendance. As well, you can quantify that, but actually, I think the greatest influence that we've had on events and the greatest potential we have to make this very mixed picture of things that are going on right now come out positive is the first, is the spreading of the vision itself. That, I mean, look, you know, Victor Hugo said, nothing can stop an idea whose time has come. But that is only true if there are messengers who are there to spread the idea, okay? And, you know, so we have been spreading this idea. And it is recruiting to its banners the people necessary for its execution, okay? One of them, of course, is very famous. I mean, we're the ones who recruited Musk to making Mars his calling, and many of the people at SpaceX, and also many of the people who are not at SpaceX, but ended up elsewhere because they made Mars their calling, but they ended up simply working for different companies or creating different companies. And many of them aren't working in the industry at all, but they're in the arts, or they're in politics, or they're somewhere else. And and all these sorts of people are going to be necessary to make this thing happen, okay? Because, you know, once again, okay, it could be a minor bureaucrat in the FAA that ultimately decides whether the Starship's going to be allowed to fly, and it's going to be determined, perhaps, based on how sympathetic he or she is to the whole general idea, okay? Whether they think this is an important thing or not. And or it could be enterprises, you know. We need more people, including different kinds of people, attempting the impossible. I mean, Musk is an example, but he is just one personality. He has a lot of strengths. He has a lot of weaknesses. He could easily fail, okay? We need to have the maximum. In other words, Apollo succeeded, but then there was a failure in the political class and it wasn't continued. The potential strength of the entrepreneurial space revolution is that it is multifaceted. If one of its leadership fails, there are others that could come and step in and pick up the banner. That's the ultimate strength of this new space age, that it ultimately doesn't depend on a particular personality. And that's really important. So we need to keep spreading the vision. We need to keep spreading it directly, and we need to keep spreading it through indirect means as well. All of our field activities, the desert stations get plenty of press coverage, so that helps spread the vision. The rover challenge helps spread the vision. This Mars education initiative that we've just demonstrated in this pilot program this past summer, it was an extraordinary success. And now we're going to try to take it wide, okay? And it will not just help reform education, but also, I mean, look, I've met some of the parents of some of the kids who were in this contest, okay? Some who came here from Asia or Europe with their kids, because incredibly proud and incredibly happy at the impact that this contest had on their kids. And if we can show people that Mars lights the fire in the eyes of their kids, that this is what, turns them on, that makes them alive, that brings out their potential, you've got those parents, you've got their support, okay? They will understand, okay, why it is that a society needs to take on this challenge, okay, to inspire millions of young people to want to become scientists or engineers so they can become part of it. And some of them will become part of it, and others will go and find medical cures and inventions or do whatever it is that people do that advance society. So that's what we have to do. That's what we're going to do. We're also going to attempt to actually influence NASA a bit. The NASA program right now is not well conceived. They have pretty disorganized humans to the moon program, but it is not even well oriented to establish humans on the moon, and it certainly has no, despite the rhetoric, doesn't support much in terms of going on from Mars from there, except for the fact that it will support the development and use of a heavy lift vehicle. But in terms of what it does otherwise, no, it doesn't have a humans to Mars program. And in fact, it doesn't even have a robotic Mars exploration program beyond sample return. Okay, now I believe that the advent of heavy lift, and the reason why this conference was given the theme, although it only appeared occasionally in some of the talks, searching for life with heavy lift, is that heavy lift creates a new reality in all sections of the space venture, including robotic Mars exploration, potentially. And if that potential is grasped, if all of a sudden they say, hey, now that we have heavy lift, we could launch robotic Mars expeditions, then we get the development of a heavy Mars lander, which is a key technology needed for humans to Mars, and which could be exercised on robotic Mars expeditions. And then all of a sudden, humans to Mars doesn't look so hard anymore. You've got heavy lift, you've got trans-Mars transportation, Mars landing transportation. You've put in place a lot of the pieces necessary to do it. So I spoke to Pam Melroy while she was here, and she agreed with the idea of creating a workshop, a NASA workshop on that subject, on the subject of using heavy lift to support Mars robotic expeditions. And if we start getting ideas, mission concepts generated from within the system, from JPL and elsewhere along these lines, then eventually you could probably get a requirement to develop a heavy lander as the way to not only take the Mars, robotic Mars program forward with additional rovers and orbiters and such, but actually radically expand it by developing another one of the key capabilities necessary to support human Mars exploration. So we're going to be working with them to try to make that happen. Okay. And then, well, I wish I could tell you, next year the presidential campaign season is opening up and you can go and start influencing the prospective candidates, but they don't look that good. But if we can't influence candidates, we can influence the intellectual environment around them, and the one in the nation. And you know, we have to make it understood. You know, we need to, you know, to refuse to take on the challenge. We can take on the challenge of Mars. The technology is nearly at hand. If heavy lift does become a reality, the idea of a human Mars mission is going to become much more sellable. And you know, and if we get NASA starting to think about creating another one of the key technology elements and immediately utilizing it, or relatively utilizing it soon, and greatly expanding in activity, it already does in a way that is robotic Mars exploration, then you can start getting some clear thinking. And then whoever's elected in 2024, if these heavy lift vehicles are flying, you know, and you know, got starships and things competing with starships, you know, delivering heavy lift capabilities to orbit weekly on costs a few percent that of the Saturn V because they were usable, and the vision is there, humans to Mars. You know, they're going to say, you know, if we get together with these guys, could we get humans to Mars by the end of my second term? And the answer, at least from some people, from them, is going to be yes. We got to make that happen. Okay. You know, in the 1950s, I forget the year, but Wernher von Braun got together with Walt Disney, and they produced, I think it was a TV series. I can't remember whether it was a single movie or a TV series. What? 3-episode series. That's what it was. And remember the name? Was it Destination Moon? Yes, that was it. Okay. And they put it out there. Okay. So you had, you know, the idea was put out there, humans to the moon. Humans to the moon. We can do it. Humans to the moon. This is something that we're going to be able to do soon. And then along comes 1961, and John F. Kennedy has to do something with a lot of flash. Okay. And what does he say? Humans to the moon. Okay. Because the idea had been put out there. It was in the zeitgeist. We got to put this in the zeitgeist. This is our job. Okay. So finally, I usually end these evenings with a fundraising pitch and hitting the people in the audience hard for money and who can give $1,000. But I'm not going to do that tonight. I'm going to leave it up to you. Just want you to know that it takes money to do this. Right now, we actually are in fairly good shape because of the donation from Blue Origin, but we can't let that be, we're going to have to keep funding ourselves. So we have a number of projects we're going to do in the very near future, possibly as soon as this December. This Mars VR that Jim has been developing is going to be deployed at the Mars Desert Research Station. That is, we're going to attempt to do this thing where, in other words, they have now several square kilometers of terrain around the Mars Desert Station has now been filmed in high definition and turned into a virtual reality landscape with a GIS grid on it. And we're going to do a thing where Jim goes to someplace like the Seattle Science Museum, and they bring the VR set, and we have astronauts in the hab at MDRS out exploring, and the people at the Science Museum telling them, hey, that rock that's near you on your left, could you hit it with a hammer? I think it's a fossil. It demonstrating the idea of cooperation between a virtual agent, what I call a ghost, and an astronaut on Mars. It's demonstrating a methodology that will allow thousands of people to participate alongside both Mars rover missions and Mars astronaut missions. So we're going to do that soon as well. And I ask you, well, to help support it with a donation. So when you go home, see what you can do. But if not, do what you can. On to Mars. Okay, so do you have anything to announce? Do you have anything to announce? All right, then let's end the dinner. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Thank you very much, everyone. We'll see you tomorrow morning for the final set of plenaries, and have a good night. Thank you all.